Hello everybody and welcome back to Cuckoo for Books. Today I will be doing a review of not just one book, not just two books, not three books, but 3 books and 5 novellas. Yes, I am doing a whole gigantic Grisha review. Those of you who don't know, Leigh Bardugo'S is coming to the Philippines on Saturday, and in preparation for her book signing, I decided to marathon all of her books. I was going to reread them over the past 2 weeks, and I decided to give you guys a review. Marathoning it was good, and I got way more invested in the story than if I'd read it, took a break, read another book, just like, yeah, marathoning is good. Bad for your health, but good for the mind. And the bookness in your mind. I've lost track of what I wanted to say. For those of you who don't know, the books are by Leigh Bardugo. They're a high fantasy series. There are these people called the Grisha, and they are masters of the small science. You've got all these people who are like X-Men / wizards / avatars. No, benders. Yeah, so it's kind of like Avatar, The Last Airbender mixed with X-Men. That's how I would describe them. There's Alina, our hero, and she is a specific kind of Grisha, and she's the only one of her kind. That's where the story starts, where she discovers her powers and how much danger she's in, but also how much she can save the world, because that's what these stories are about, saving the world. So the first book in the series is Shadow and Bone. This is still my favorite book out of all 3. It's her coming into her powers. There's this thing called the Unsea, or the Fold, and it's this place of bleak death in the middle of Ravka. The reason why she's so cherished and desired as a Grisha, as a sun summoner, is because she's the only one who has the power to create light, or to summon light, and that's what they need to destroy the Unsea. She realizes that her powers aren't enough, and so she needs amplifiers. Amplifiers are like pieces of animals that you hunt, and when you kill them, you take them in, and they make your powers grow and become stronger. And so the first book is about them trying to hunt Morozov's stag. Just like being at the little palace. I like reading about Alina learning about her powers, and of course I like it because everybody is safe and happy and alive. Don't talk to me, I just finished the season finale of Game of Thrones. It has not a lot of Mal in it, but it has a lot of magic-y and Grisha, all those coolness. It has the most Darkling in it. Love me some Darkling. I imagine like a Benedict Cumberbatch sort of dude. Towards the end of the first book, we go out into the woods and camp for an undetermined period of time, and that's never a nice part in any of, well, I personally don't like them camping out in the woods and they do that. And it was a lot harder to read in Shadow and Bone 2 because you had 2 campers who did not want to speak to each other. Shadow and Bone ends with them back on the Unsea, where the story started, because the Darkling was going to sacrifice Mal and get into all kinds of woo. Because this is only the first book and there are 2 more books, they make a daring escape out into the unknown. Yay, more unknown camping. That's where the book ends. Yeah. Second book of the series is Siege and Storm. The first book was more of a self-discovery, internal sort of fight and conflict. Second book takes you into to some real action. It introduces the wonderful character of Stormhund. I don't know how to say his name. We'll call him by his real name then. Nikolai. Nikolai. I love Nikolai. Nikolai. He is one of my favorite YA characters, bar none. He's like Jack Sparrow mixed with Magnus Bane, mixed with Prince Charming, all wrapped up into one beautiful man. And I love Nikolai, Team Nikolai. So the second book starts off with Mal and Melina, let's call them Melina. Melina on the run from the Darkling, and they meet Stormhound on the way, and they have a lot of nautical adventures. They learn to be part of the crew, and they all start bonding. And then our little group of just Alina, how the beginning of Shadow and Bone was just Alina, little Alina, and then in her adventures comes along Mal, it's two of them. In the second book, you're joined by Tolia and Tamar and Nikolai, and then their little ragtag band grows a little bigger. A lot of the action happened in the beginning with all the ships and the pirates and the flying ship and the landing and the Darkling and the everything, and that happened in the beginning of the book. And then the end was sort of like a segue into the third book, like prep for war, How is that gonna play out on film? Like, you have all the swashbuckling adventures, and then they go back to the palace and prepare for war. I don't really know how that's gonna play out. I did like the ending. The last part of Siege and Storm was a beautiful, like, any scene with Nikolai is just pure wit, and you're like, ah, I applaud you, you sassy pants. Third one really showed him not just playing by, you know, sass and wits and jokes and him trying to get by on his charm, but it showed him as someone who could lead the country, especially in contrast with his older brother, yucky Vasily. And the ending at his birthday party where he realizes something that Vasily didn't, and that was just a stroke of pure genius. The battle at the end of Siege and Storm was in a way more painful than the third book's battle. How in Game of Thrones, the 8th or 9th episode is always more violent and crazy than the actual 10th episode. It was kind of like that. That was hard to read because so many deaths, and my favorite setting, the little palace, blown to bits, and everybody inside massacred, and oh man, that's painful. The part in the end where has hold of the Darkling and he's like, you're gonna kill us, and she's like, I don't care if I die as long as I'm taking you down with me. Completes her transformation into someone who, you know, she wants love, she wants Mal, she just wants to be an ordinary girl. And that's the turning point, I think, in the book, where there's no turning back. She has to do this. She has to either sacrifice herself, or she has to face the truth and become a saint or a queen or whatever the people want her to be. She can't be just another girl anymore. The third book, and the third and final book, is Ruin and Rising, and it's the first red book. I don't know why that's important. I just felt like I had to say that. In this book, our little band of merry Grisha get even bigger, with some Grisha from the little palace coming along and joining us, plus new strangers who, I'm gonna talk about this for like 5 seconds. I never understood the addition of Stig and Harshaw and Onkat in the story. Stig and Harshaw were introduced in the first part, and then they ended up dying in the third book. So they lived and breathed and then died in the same book, which was the final book, and I never really understood that. I did like the fact that their merry little band got a bit bigger. Had Zoya and Nadia and Adric from the previous books, along with Misha. This book was definitely more typical high fantasy, in the sense that they do that thing where they camp and they go on journeys. We're gonna go here and see what this land brings us, and we're not sure how long we'll be here camping in the muck. I know a character who feels the same way I do about camping in books, and that is Zoya, because she's like, well, how long are we gonna stay out here? We're just gonna wait until the Firebird comes? What if the Firebird never comes? Then we're just gonna be here forever? How long are we gonna march? I hate this. I want to be back at the palace. I'm like, oh my god, Zoya, you're me. Less mean than her, but we're the same. Third book finally did the big reveal on the Darkling's background and Morozov's background and Mal and Alina's background. The fact that Leigh Bardugo never did tell us where Alina was from I would have liked for Alina to find out who her parents were, but at the same time it reinforces the fact that Mal is the only home she's ever known and the only home she will ever know, and I am not usually a sap for those things, but oh man, is that sweet. One of the things and I think I've talked about this maybe, sometimes I like villains staying villains. Like, you know how there's this whole thing now with like Maleficent and Loki, and they tend to pardon all these villains, like, oh, villains have a soft side too. And sometimes you just want to be like, no, why can't I have a badass just being bad because they're bad? You know, like with the end of City of Heavenly Fire, at the end they were like, oh, poor Sebastian. And it was sort of the same here. Like at the end, the Darkling was, you know, this poor man who was doomed to live thousands of years alone. That's understandable, but let's not forget how many people he massacred. Sometimes I wish they could just stay bad. That being said, I love the Darkling so much. He is my favorite villain, and and then you go and read The Demon in the Wood, which is a novella about him, and you're just like, well, maybe he's not so bad after all, and you're just like, so many conflicting feelings about this murderer. That came out wrong. So let's talk about the epilogues me every time, and there's a part of me that's kind of sad that Alina is not Grisha anymore, and she's Otsukaya. I don't know how you say that, but she's mortal. Character-wise, I was so happy for her because that's what she wanted all along. At the same time, I would have loved to be like, yeah, I'm part of the rebuilding effort of Ravka, and let's get this show on the road with King Nikolai and the second army, and you know, that would have been fun to read, but maybe we'll see it in Six of Crows. After reading the third book, I finished it last night, and then I immediately went on to marathon all 5 novellas of the book. My favorites were definitely the fairy tales, the companion folk tales, and they served as sort of the tales of Beedle the Bard with Harry Potter. They were sort of the companion in that sense, that it had nothing to do with the story, but it was just something that was mentioned a lot. It expanded the universe in a way, and I liked it. My favorite was probably The Too Clever Fox. I liked that. I liked how Leigh Bardugo was able to make them sound and feel like real fairy tales, like real life fairy tales. It had that sense of like eeriness and kind of bedtime story feel to it. I was reading the books and I was like, oh, I'm gonna read these to my kids when they're old. Well, when I have kids, like, I'm gonna read them The Too Clever Fox. That's kind of cute. That's a cute story. I read Little Knife, and I was like, that's very fairy tale, like a princess and her suitors, and the suitors going through like adventures to win her hand. I was like, yeah, that's very fairy tale like. I read The Witch of Duba, and then I was like, well, I'm not gonna read this to my child. That's horrible. That's not what I was. I'm not unfamiliar with that sort of material. I watch Criminal Minds a lot. This is Criminal Minds, Ravka edition. It was very disturbing, and I'm not reading them to my children, let me tell you that. The last 2 novellas of the Grisha trilogy were Demon in the Wood and The Tailor. Demon of the Wood was a story about the Darkling as a kid. I hate you, these are my walls. I mean, you're cute, but you're still a murderer. And then you read it and you're just like, you poor baby, I want to give you a hug. It was a good glimpse into how he and Bakra lived, and oh man, your heart will just melt for that poor kid. And Annika, I hate you. You're a wily minx. If I had to choose a least favorite out of all 5 novellas, it would probably be The Tailor, because I am not a fan of a retelling of the first book, but from this person's point of view. Like, give me another story. Do you know what I mean? A novella, this character as a child. This novella after they were married. This novella from this person's point of view. I don't know, it just seems really redundant to me. There's so much in Jenya's life that I wanted to see other than her time at the Little Palace. How did she get to the Little Palace? What was her like after? What about with David? I wanted to see a wedding. It's tough to complain because reading the Taylor also like opened my eyes on that's why she sided with the Darkling. That's why she betrayed Alina. I kind of get it now. I mean, jerk move, but I get it. Let's talk about the world building for 2 seconds. It is amazing. Leigh Bardugo got the same guy who made the Dothraki language to make Ravkan, and I think that's crazy amazing. The mythology that went into creating the Grisha and the maps. I have this theory that if there's a book at the if there's a map at the beginning of the book, it cannot go wrong because yay, world building. Loved being in that world for the past 2 weeks. I remember after reading Ruin and Rising for the first time about a year ago, I said, I'm not done. I am so not done with the Grisha books yet. I'm not done with this world yet. And lo and behold, she is making 6 of Crows. And that's another book set in the world of the Grisha, and I am very excited to read it. So that is it for my Grisha-thon. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to me ramble and fangirl about the books. I enjoyed this little self-imposed Grisha-thon. Don't forget, Leigh Bardugo is coming here to the Philippines this weekend. June 20th, she'll be in the SM City Cebu, a national bookstore at 2 p.m. And on June 21, she is coming here to Manila in Glorietta National Bookstore, 2 p.m. And I hope to see you guys there. And I'm gonna get my book signed. Are you gonna get your book signed? I'm gonna get my book signed. Are you gonna wear Grisha outfits? I am not, because it is hot in the Philippines and wearing a big woolly coat is stupid. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please subscribe and follow me on all the things down there. And I will see you guys next time. And for those in the Philippines, I will see you guys on Sunday. Bye!